Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them. Today's episode is a special bonus episode, and we're not even talking about movies, we're talking about books. And I'm very, very happy to be joined by V. Castro, a Mexican-American writer from San Antonio, Texas, now residing in the UK. She dedicates her time to her family and writing Latinx narratives in horror, speculative fiction, and science fiction. Her most recent releases include The Queen of Cicadas from Flame Tree Press and Goddess of Filth and Creature Publishing. And she joins us today to talk about her new book, Aliens Vasquez, the canonical, oh God, I struggle with that, background of the breakout aliens hero, Jenette Vasquez, as well as the story of the children she was forced to leave behind, which releases on October the 25th. Thanks for joining us, V. Congratulations on Aliens Vasquez.
Thank you. Thank you. It's gosh, I can't believe it's here already. Like I started it so long ago, but that's always how it is in publishing. Like you get the contract and then you write it and edits and then you're waiting and waiting and then you're like, "Oh my God, it's actually going to be out in the world."
It's actually happening. It's 2 weeks away.
Read it. Yeah, people are actually going to read it and review it and
is that kind of scary? I feel like it's got to be.
You know what? Yes and no. I have no control over it. So, for example, I have a book coming out in April, The Haunting of Alejandra from Del Rey, and people are already reviewing it and it's circulating. Yeah.
Wow.
Arcs are already out and you're just kind of like, okay. So you're already
I'm not prepared for this.
Yeah. So you already, I don't read reviews in general, but sometimes it is an anticlimax because you're already, reviews are trickling in. Some people are already reading it. I just put it in the back of my mind. I'm just like, okay, I'm not even going to think about it. It's going to be out in the world. I knew this was going to happen. It's just another day.
It's just another day. What were these final 2 weeks in the build up to the release of Aliens Vasquez be like there for you?
Honestly, so I leave on Friday to go to the US for Merrimack Valley Halloween Book Festival. So, and then I go to New York after. So I'm going to be busy.
Oh, wow.
I'm not going to think about it. I think on the 25th, I'll just be like on Twitter, "Hi, everyone. The book's out in the UK, November 8th for the US. Okay, bye."
Okay, bye. So October the 25th for the UK, November the 8th for the US. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Excuse me.
Because UK is very, very special. It's the most important.
Yeah. And the distribution gods have said, they don't want to cooperate. There are issues. So they've had to move it to the US twice, but that's okay. I mean, again, it's out of my control.
Yeah. And it's not that long after the 25th either, is it? It's not like months and months later, which would be kind of frustrating, I can imagine. Yeah.
The book's going to come out no matter what. So
it is. Nothing you can do about it now. I'm pretty sure you can't just pull out of it. That's not going to happen.
Exactly.
Don't do that.
Exactly. So, I mean, I'm not too concerned. It's just one of those things. I mean, publishing, there's so many bumps and it's a long journey.
So we met a few weeks ago at the book launch of Gemma Amour's book Full Immersion, and that was we talked a lot about publishing then, and me, who's always been involved in self-publishing. It was really fascinating to kind of hear about like the length of the process and everything. So you said obviously it's been a long road and it's been years, hasn't it? It's been years since I guess. What was the journey in undertaking this project? Were you approached or did you pitch it, or how did it kind of come to fruition?
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to write this book. And as I started my writing journey, you get to know people, you make friends, you network. The horror community is great. It is a community, truly. And I got to talking to someone who actually writes for them as well. And um, I kind of told him my idea, and he was like, okay, we've got to have this. I'm going to introduce you to the editor. So emails were exchanged. I pitched it to the editor. He pitched it, and then the rest is history. But it was like a long road because I had to
Mm.
then write a huge outline. That had to go through some edits. And then finally, contracts, everything signed. And then and it was like, okay, write it. We need it now. We need it tomorrow. Great. Okay.
Oh God. How long were you given? Because you did give me a time frame when we
I
discussed
think I
it.
wrote it between 9 and 10 weeks.
Whoa. How many words? Well, how many words was
At
that first
first,
draft at least?
at first it was
Hmm.
85,000.
That's quite an undertaking, isn't it? I can't even begin to imagine
Yeah.
like the
After
pressure.
edits, it's like 92. But you
Wow.
know what?
Okay.
The outline was so thorough and the outline had to be so on point. I just wrote from that. And that was like a huge chunk. Not a huge chunk. Obviously, 85,000 is a lot of words, but it made it easy because I
Hmm.
knew everything I was doing.
Yeah. So when you usually write, with obviously all of your other books and all the other fiction you write, do you write incredibly thorough outlines like you had to, or
Oh, God,
absolutely?
no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I didn't want to assume.
I am like hanging on for dear life.
Yeah.
No, I don't do outlines at all. I just get an idea,
Mm.
write it down, and then hope for the best and just kind of work my way through it and get
Mm.
some ideas. Um, and I go through spurts where I will just like be super focused and I know exactly what I'm doing and I'm just like flying. And then other things will come up and I'll take a break,
Mm.
or yeah, the idea has dried up and I'm not sure where I'm going with it.
So the process of obviously writing Vasquez, if you wrote from such a detailed outline, you said you found it easy. So did you find it easier than writing your obviously the original stories that you write?
You know what? Yes and no, because obviously I had canon to deal with, and I also had to get kind of
Mm.
the approval from the studio. The licensor had to say yes to everything. Basically,
Yeah,
they had to approve everything that I wrote, which is frustrating because when you write your own story, you're your own
yeah,
master. You only have to answer to yourself, right?
of course.
But for this, it everything had to be approved. So I couldn't just say, you know, and then the giant octopus, you know,
Well, you say
climb.
that, but that's not too far removed from what they've actually done with the Alien franchise. They've got where's a big old squid or something knocking about. Uh,
Excuse me.
yeah,
Sorry. I have I have children, so and I did the school run this morning, so I'm like yawning. Sorry.
you have
It's
children,
not you.
and it's not me. It's fine. I'm used to it. It's fine. I'll take it on the chin. I'll take it on
And
the chin. I'll just go step
I'm
forward.
super comfortable
You're
on my
so
sofa.
comfortable. You've got like a really furry
I have
purple
two furry
blanket.
pillows. Yeah.
That was a pillow. Okay, there
Yeah.
we go. I don't blame
Yeah.
you. I'm a little bit I'm feeling pretty cozy. I got the hoodie on. But I might bust out a yawn at some point. Who knows? Who knows? I'll apologize in advance. Um, Talking of that canon stuff though, and you said obviously the studios had to get involved. Does that mean like Disney have got their mucky pools
Oh,
involved as well now?
everything. Yes. It you can't just like like I said, oh, and so the purple octopus climbed out of the depths of the ocean and
It was
grabbed a
just a dream.
xenomorph.
It was
Yeah,
just a dream.
you have to literally have that stamp of approval. You have to really,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
then I had to actually take out some sex in it because it was too much. So
Oh, okay. Ah, that's 20,000 words lost already.
exactly,
God
you
damn
know
it.
my work. People know my work,
If you're familiar.
but they're
Um,
like, oh, that's a little graphic.
Ah, okay, okay. I did have a little bit of synopsis of the book to read out, just in case anyone was wondering. I'm sure we've got Aliens fans and Alien fans listening. So, the synopsis for Aliens Vasquez is: even before the doomed mission to Hadley's Hope on LV-426, Jenette Vasquez had to fight to survive. Born to an immigrant family with a long military tradition, she looked up to the stars, but life pulled her back down to earth. First into the street gang, then prison. The colonial Marines proved to be Vasquez's way out, a way that forced her to give up her twin children. Raised by Jenette's sister, those children, Letitia and Ramon, had to discover their own ways to survive. Letitia following her mother's path into the military, Ramon into the corporate hierarchy of Weyland-Yutani. Their paths would converge on the unnamed planet, which some see as potential utopia, while others would use it as a highly secretive research. Regardless of whatever humans might have planned for it, however, xenomorphs would turn it into a living hell. That was loads. Sorry, I didn't realize it was as long as that. I've basically covered the old book. I'm sorry about that. This is one question I kind of had, because
Yeah.
I was thinking, if it's a prequel to Aliens, I was thinking, how are xenomorphs gonna come into it? But obviously, yeah. Sorry, go on.
Oh yeah. You're right. You're exactly right.
That must have been the very. I'm assuming that was the very first question you had, which was, it's got to have xenomorphs in it. I mean, I'm assuming from the get go, you knew you're going to want to include them. But
Oh,
how did you manage
absolutely.
to? Was that a
Well,
difficult thing to try and get them in, like
no,
from the get go?
because obviously we all know she dies. That's canon. We cannot change that. Um,
Mm,
I didn't want her to be in a street gang in LA and in prison, but again, that was canon. That had to
mm,
stay. And then the rest of the stuff, there were only bits and pieces that I had to keep, and then the rest are kind of like, okay, well, use your imagination.
mm,
So I basically give you her life up to her death, but before her death and before, there's a little wiggle room, and I wanted to also show her legacy.
mm,
And so that's why she has two twins, two children that we don't know about, that we didn't see in the film. And there are no
mm.
books about her. There are no short stories about her. There's nothing else about
Oh
her.
wow! See, that's incredibly surprising, considering
Mhm.
she's a hugely popular character.
Exactly. So
Um,
I could just do. So I created this whole different world that she was a part of, and so she dies, but she has these two children on Earth, and so the
mm.
story takes over from them.
Oh wow, I love it. I'm incredibly excited to read it. It really does sound great. Um, so I mean, talking about Vasquez, what was your relationship with the character of Vasquez, and I guess the Alien franchise, before you took on the challenge of writing the book? Is it something you um grew up with? Is it something that you'd sort of found sort of later in life? Sometimes, I mean, I think I'd seen Alien and Aliens, but I didn't see any of the sequels until I was kind of in my teens. So had you kind of like loved it from release, I
Ye-
guess?
Absolutely. So I remember watching it when I was really young, like too young. I think I mean, well, I'm 43, and I mean, back in the day, we just kind of watched whatever, we did whatever. Parenting was just like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
watch this, eat that. There's the door. I'll see you tonight.
yeah.
um, so I watched Alien and Aliens definitely by the time I was 10.
Mm,
Um, and again, seeing Ripley, wow, seeing Newt, wow, seeing Vasquez, even more wow, because she was a brown woman, and those were the women that I saw in my community, in my family, and that just made such a huge impression on me.
mm,
And again, back then we didn't have too many really strong female leads, and
mm,
even fewer brown leads. So it was really exciting for me, even though the actress is not Latina, it still made an impression. And again, you know, she's just an icon. She became this icon. And I've seen the film so many times. And I later in life wrote a bit of fan fiction, which kind of gave me the idea for this. And I just love because I just had this idea about her. And then as fate, the universe would see fit, that very thing I wanted has happened.
Yeah, I know. That must be absolutely. I can't even believe how amazing that must have been. But yes,
Mm.
Vasquez was always a character that has obviously got a huge sort a lot of the fans of the franchise have got a huge love for her. Just that camaraderie, obviously, she's got with the other colonial marines. How she looks with the pulse rifle, my God, just changed my life. So I mean, my mum's a huge fan of Alien and Aliens, and she is very keen to read the book as well. I've told her all about it,
Oh,
and
yay.
so she saw
Hi,
Aliens when.
Mom.
Hi, mum. If you're listening, she's probably not. Probably not. Bless her. She's not very not the best with technology.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't mean to throw her under the bus. But she watched Aliens, and well, she was pregnant with me. So she said when there was like chest bursts and stuff happening, I was moving around in her tummy. So I feel like that was my first. I think that's maybe why I love the franchise so much. That was one of my
There
first
you go.
cinematic memories.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I know. It's a cool little bit of information, I guess, that I always like to share. So yeah, I guess in terms of that relationship, how was the process of so I mean, obviously we talked about the challenges of writing the book. We talked about the process of writing
Hmm.
this as being different from
Hmm.
writing your own fiction. What were you able to put across in writing, would you say, that perhaps couldn't or wasn't shown for Vasquez in film? I guess obviously in terms of like the backstory, there's not all that much. I can't even remember. Is there any little bits of dialogue that suggest she's done a bit of time and was in a gang or anything like that? There's nothing, literally nothing.
It was all what James Cameron and the actress kind of came up with
Okay,
when they were doing
I
the
like it.
backstory written like not in the film and also in interviews which I had to read and different things, especially interviews um, with them talking about the
Mm.
film. But
Yeah,
in
so I
the
mean,
actual dialogue and in the actual film, nothing except
no.
like she has the teardrop tattoo.
Mm.
But other than that, yeah, no, it was all other things I had to read before starting the story.
Do you know anything about like why they killed her off, or whether that was always the plan, or
I think
because it
why
kind of
in
it kind of
any
sucks because yeah, that's true, but it kind of
because
sucks
then
because
in
it's
the
like a redemption moment. Sorry, V, you carry on.
no, it's okay because then like we really liked Ripley and kind of the relationship she had, and then in the third one when they land, he's dead
Yeah, it's almost like any
and Newt's dead
well-established. I mean,
and Newt dies.
that's
Like literally
unforgivable.
everybody dies except for her. So I think it was just the plan.
Yeah. Because it almost
Yeah,
feels like with Vasquez, it feels like it's kind of her death feels like it's part of a redemption moment for the character she dies with. It's not.
yeah,
No, I was going to say Burke, but that's the other dude. The I can't remember what his name is. The sort of captain dude. Um,
yes,
it feels like it's like a redemption moment for him, and I almost feel like he could have just
yes.
been on his own. He could have easily been on his own. I mean, I'm not going to get into all of my
No, of course.
all of my frustrations in terms of the franchise, but yeah, I guess it must be slightly frustrating.
I mean,
Um,
it's just the way, again, even if she had survived and she was on the ship, they would have killed her off
they would have
anyway.
killed her off in the third one. Yeah, it seems like as a franchise, it's really never been sort of scared to just kill off popular characters or completely like veto things entirely. And I guess that gets me to my next question. So my co-host
Mhm.
Andy, I asked him if he had a question for you. He said he'd love to know your take on the mythos of the franchise and how it's been handled in like the shared DNA prequels. There's a couple of questions here, but do you think the Xenomorph needs a defined origin, and where would you take the franchise if it was completely up to you?
So I actually wanted to incorporate the engineers in the
Mm.
book. And I was really interested
Oh.
in exploring the engineers because I think they're really cool. I
Mm.
know, okay, a lot of people did not like Prometheus. There are people out there that are just like
Mm.
so against it. I I was entertained and I loved, we've all seen the space jockey
Mm.
and and it's just really cool. And then they brought out the engineers. You're like, oh, so that's what they look like. Um, I just think they're really interesting. But then
Mm.
that was another thing. They're like, no, we can't talk about the engineers. Nope, there's no engineers. Nope, nope, nope. All right then.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Like, chill.
Get off my back, Disney. Give me a break. I got a book to write. I've
So
got 8 weeks left.
so I couldn't write anything with the engineers. Fine. Um,
Mm.
but if I were to like do anything, I would probably explore them more. I love Predator. I want to do AVP. So I would totally go like all the way in to
Yeah.
AVP. I love the idea of that. Um, and again, like the AVP film, I thought was real. I enjoyed it. I
Mm.
loved the end. I love you had a black, strong female lead, and I just thought it was really cool. But again, it's those are the two areas I would explore more
Mm.
if I had my choice. But I
Yeah.
really love what I've done with Vasquez. I really, with what I could do,
Mm.
I'm happy with what I've done. And
Yeah.
I hope I have the opportunity to write more and the fans make a lot of noise for another book,
Yeah.
and buy it, because then that signifies to the publisher like, oh, we love this.
Mm.
Let's do some more. And yeah, I would totally
I
welcome more.
I don't doubt the fact that it's going to do really well. Just sort of sticking with that question about the alien stuff and obviously the engineers. Um, yeah, I mean, I quite like Prometheus. I'll be honest, I did like Prometheus. I think it gets a lot right. I feel like it gets a bit convoluted towards the end when they're like, I really like the idea of the xenomorph sort of just existing and nobody knows why. It's just a product of nature and the fact that it's kind of created. But again, with Alien Covenant, they did that thing again where they go, all those engineers, let's just kill them off. Let's murder all of them in one go.
Exactly. And I was like, but this is where I was like, okay, you want to kill the engineers off, but that's only one world.
Yeah.
They obviously colonized a ton of places and they have
Not
really advanced technology. They
not just
could be
one world, one like little center of a city. It's not even like it's like that's not even London. That's just like I they just dropped it on
that's
Hyde Park and then they went, right, they're all dead now, are they?
exactly
No.
exactly. So I'm like, obviously there's got to be more engineers out there somewhere.
Yeah.
There's no way that kind of race of
Mm.
beings would just be like there. Um, so I was kind of like, okay, oh, I didn't answer about the origins. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you really need an origin. I mean, what about us? We don't really have an origin.
There we go.
Nobody knows
That's
our origin is debated by everyone. Does it matter? Not really. We exist, and
well, you were a tiny little blob of oil that ended up in someone's eye, and then they gave birth to a squid, and then that squid. Oh yeah, oh yeah, that sounds great. I love it. That's what you should write.
So I mean, I don't think it really matters, but yeah, I mean, I like the idea of the engineers, so
Mm.
we'll
I
see.
mean, I understand why like origins, because people are curious, and it's fiction, and we could make up an origin. Let's sell that. That's interesting. But yeah, I like the thought of the xenomorph just existing as this freak of nature that's kind of evolved over years rather than just be created. That always kind of disappointed me in a
Yeah.
way.
Oh, and
Um.
speaking of Prometheus, there is a Vickers in this book.
Oh, okay.
Like Meredith Vickers, who is
Yeah.
like Charlize Theron. There is a Vickers in this book.
Oh, where do you stand on the like theory that maybe she's an android?
Well, I kind of throw that out because it's a person
Just a
who's
theory.
related to her,
Yeah. Okay. Well, you throw
a
that out, but
blood
maybe like
relative.
a blood relative of her. But yeah, because it's just because she was cold that kind of people thought that, didn't they? They went,
Yeah, but
hang on a minute,
she was
it's
so
got to be an.
jealous of David that I think she was human.
Yeah.
And she was
Ah,
sleeping with Idris Elba.
I absolutely love that relationship in that film because they're literally
Mhm.
just like, I don't even know if they really even like each other, but they're just like, shall we just maybe?
We're in
I mean,
space.
we're in space. It's Christmas. I mean, he's decorating the tree, isn't he? It's like let's just get on. I mean, if I was in space with Charlize or Idris, I think I'd just go, shall we just? You could put something lovely on that big screen, when it looks like you're
Yeah, exactly.
in Barbados or something, and just get it on. You're all gonna die anyway. You're all gonna die,
They
uh,
do.
and they
It's an
do.
aliens film.
Yeah. You did briefly touch upon this, but I thought I'd just like circle back a little bit. So you do think that there are more Vasquez stories to tell. You hope you'd be the one who gets to tell them. I guess.
Yes.
Does that mean you
Yeah,
have
so
any ideas for that?
oh, 100. Well, if you read the like by the time you get to the end of the novel, you kind of you'll know where it can go.
Mm,
So I left the book where you could read it as a standalone because that's what they
okay.
wanted. Write it as a standalone with a little something. So
A little something something.
like wiggle room to be more, right?
Yeah. A little
Um,
wiggle. It it,
yeah.
it zooms in on Vasquez's charred fingers and they wiggle. No, I'm joking,
No,
sir. I'm sorry.
not
I'm
that.
sorry. I'm sorry.
No, unfortunately, I think people would never read my books again if I did that.
Yeah. Well,
um,
there's so
but
much there's so much room for maneuver, I guess, in terms of what you can do in that. I mean, I'm not going to try and spoil anything. But yeah, I can imagine there's ways out of certain things, but depends on what you want to do, I guess.
well, because it's focused at the second half of the book on her children, you would get the continuation of what happens
Mm,
with them.
yeah. Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. That sounds incredibly exciting. So, oh, there is an audiobook version of this as well, isn't there?
Yeah. I get, yeah. I mean, last I heard it was being produced. So
Yeah. So, were you involved in the process of that getting made alongside the publication, or did they kind of just
no, no, they just, yeah.
took your work and just said, "We're making an audiobook as
It's
well."
ours now,
It's
bitch.
ours now. Diz,
It's ours
the
now,
big
bitch.
hulking Disney beast. Just, it's ours now. Um, is there like another established character from pop culture that you'd like to write a book about? Have you ever given, not necessarily horror, but I guess anyone from
I want
pop
to write a
culture?
Predator book.
Mm,
Um, I want to do an AVP book. I would love to do, God, there's so many different ones that I think I could really get into. Honestly, if someone said, here's your choice of IP, I would be like, oh, I liked writing IP actually. Some writers that like snub their nose. I'm like, oh
mm.
no, hell no. I think that's fun. I think it's interesting. I would love to do something like Red Sonja. I grew up with that. I think Red
Okay.
Sonja is amazing. Um, God,
Yeah,
I,
that all sounds great.
there's a lot of different places I would go.
AVP, but the V stands for Vasquez. She's in the middle. She's in the middle of them both. Come on, guys, just get
Well,
along. Did you see Prey as well? Did you see Prey?
I have not seen it yet. I've
Okay.
just because I got to the point where I was like trying to wrap up a lot of loose ends, and now I'm finally it's
Mm,
calm. There are a few things I need to just kind of finish up, but no deadlines. I mean, I actually don't have any deadlines. There's nothing looming over my head. I know that'll change very soon, but now I can kind of breathe and watch films and
yeah,
have a
just
little
take those
downtime.
nice calming moments to just breathe. Take a look at
Yep.
your take a look at all of the success,
Yes.
just look
So
back at it and say,
lucky, so blessed.
so blessed. I did want to talk about stuff about your work separate to Aliens
Yeah.
Vasquez, because you've obviously released a lot of books, you've accomplished a lot, and obviously your culture is incredibly important to you. That's one thing that we discussed, and it's also one thing that I've heard you talk about a lot when I've been listening to other interviews that you've done. It's front and center in all your work. So for new readers, what should they expect when they pick up a V Castro novel?
Oh my goodness. Lots of mythology, Aztec mythology, folklore, sex, blood, a lot of, deep emotions, pain, um, but also hope. I
Mm,
always want to leave people with a little bit of hope, with a little bit of something to kind of fill their soul. Um, and to also take tropes and just turn them on their head. So in Mestiza Blood, for example, I have the final porn star because I wanted to write a final girl story with a woman, the final girl who was totally different than what you're used to. She's not
mhm.
young, she's not a virgin. She's this aging porn star doing her last film on a secluded ranch in Texas. And then it's not so much, a deranged killer, it's a deranged creature of mythology out in the darkness. And so I wanted to do that. And so I,
Yeah.
I just love writing things like that. Yeah, so I mean, just a mixed bag. In December, I have a little bonus book coming out called Out of Aztlan, and that is more
Ah, okay.
fantasy. Yeah,
Mm,
fantasy driven. But again, you get the deities, you get just a ton of different little things, just little stories. So that's a real fun one that'll come out just before Christmas for people to like pick up for a stocking stuffer or buy
lovely.
themselves a little gift. Yeah. But
Yeah.
you just, again, the mythology, the fantasy, the I think, all the things that kind of have made me me.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
I like the one thing you suggest of taking tropes and turning them on their head as well. I
Hmm.
think that's always refreshing in any media. I think in books, in films, in comics, and anything like that. When there's a trope and you feel like you're familiar with the trope, and then suddenly it's completely different to what you could have ever expected. I think that's incredibly satisfying, and I guess that sort of stuff must be incredibly fun to write as well.
Oh, 100%. So Hairspray and Switchblades, like I love werewolf lore. I love werewolves. But because, I'm Mexican, I'm Latina, I wanted to do something a bit different. So instead of as the shifters, instead of werewolves, they turn into jaguars because jaguars were really
Oh yeah.
revered in my culture. So it's like a bunch of crazy a jaguar on the run, on the loose.
Hairspray and Switchblades is such a good title as well.
Hmm.
Like, I think the second you just hear that and you just go, "What's that called? Hairspray." Can't even say it. Hairspray and Switchblades. Well, I'm buying that. I mean, why would I not? And also, you've obviously already mentioned the book you've got coming out next April. Did you
the
say
Yeah,
The
the haunting of
Haunting?
Alejandra.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, and that's again folklore. So everybody's kind of maybe heard of La Llorona, the tale of the
Mm,
weeping woman who
yes.
murdered her children and then herself. Again, it's a story that, nobody knows the origins. It's been told over and over again. But I was like, well, what would really drive a woman to do that? And so I take the tale, go to the origins, all the way back to the Spanish conquest, but then bring it back to modern times and
Oh wow.
mental health and postnatal depression and yeah, and bring it all full circle.
Mm. How was writing in like a completely different time period as well? I mean, obviously, I'm not. You may have done that before already, but that already sounds like a challenge.
Yeah, no, I have before because I
Mm.
often, write about my ancestors, my
Hmm.
ancestry, and the mythology and their religion and their beliefs. So I have to kind of go back to that time period. And I have a book that my agent has, and it's for my second book with Del Rey. And again, I had to do research because it has a historical character as the main character. But it's actually nice to go back there because you learn more about yourself, about possibly why you feel certain things, why certain things trigger you. It's a beautiful
Wow.
thing to like know more about yourself and your family history. So yeah, it's always good. And I
Mm.
love the mythology and the history. I think it's important because we haven't really shown that. And like conquest was real horror. War is horror.
Mm-hmm.
Slavery is horror. Um, all of these different things. So
Mm.
I wanted to delve
It
into
seems
that.
like you put a lot of yourself into these books, and
Mm-hmm.
I think obviously the question I asked was what could people expect from picking up one of your books, and I think that's the one key takeaway I tend to feel is that if I read something by you, it would just be I'd be getting an understanding of the author as well. And I mean, some
Mm-hmm.
writers do that, some writers don't. Some people do kind of take themselves out of the situation, but um, I guess I guess that works incredibly well for you. And is it something you've always done? Have you always done that, or did you start off maybe not so much?
I started because I needed an outlet. I really wanted to. I had something to say, and my Kindle and my bookshelves were all, straight white men. Sorry, but I was like, I want to see more. I want to see something different. Um,
Mm,
there are so few Latinas writing horror. There are so few Mexican Americans writing
mm,
horror, um, and science fiction.
mm-hmm,
And I wanted to be part of that change because I feel, again, our history, our stories, our experiences they matter, and there's a lot to be said.
mm-hmm,
And I think literature in general and horror specifically, when you get to fear and you get to the bottom of horror, it's something we can all understand regardless where we come from
mm-hmm.
or all of it. We all experience fear. And beneath our skin, we're all the same. We all have beating hearts. We're all gonna die. Sorry, readers. We're all gonna die.
Sorry, people are like, sorry, what? When? Well, nobody knows. Um,
um, so horror reaches into some core emotions that everyone can relate to. And I wanted to just express that through my
mhm,
experiences and my culture and let people know, well, this is how I experience fear, but you can understand it well. And I
mhm.
think it's horror and literature is such a unifying thing, and we need that
Yeah,
more than ever now
yeah.
as
No,
a
I do agree.
humanity.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Where do you see the future of like Mexican American literature, and obviously you said like Latino writers, not so many being in horror. Do you feel you're like a focal point for taking that forwards, or do you see other change perhaps happening, bubbling below the surface?
I think, horror in general is becoming more inclusive. We're seeing a lot, writers from all over.
Mm,
Eric LaRocca, Haley Piper,
mm,
so many different Gabino, Iglesias. I mean, we're seeing so many different writers from so many different backgrounds just writing their stories. You know, they're unapologetic, and it's such a refreshing thing. And again, people are relating to it, and that's wonderful. And I just see horror becoming more inclusive. I see the horror community, how we all, it's not perfect, but we do tend to kind of stick up for each other and, have each other's back. And it's really nice to see people like cheering on each other's books.
mm.
And um, so it's a nice camaraderie.
Yeah, nice camaraderie. I think there's a lot of diversity and support between everybody. There's not much like gatekeeping I've not found in like the horror community. Obviously, in other communities, whether it's from literature, but music and other stuff like that, there's always sort of like this elitism and gatekeeping. But I feel like in the horror community, it does feel like everyone's kind of got each other's, but not everybody. But
Yeah, of
I think
course. It's relaxed.
it's relaxed. Yeah, it's a good sort of percentage of people, I would say.
And we all love this, like horror, like we all love horror films. We all are like super excited for the new Hellraiser. We're all kind of like, just those kind of things. It's really nice that
That's
we're
the
unified.
that's the new episode of Horror Hangout, just going live tomorrow. Oh, actually, this will go live after that. So it's sort of just gone live. Go and check out, listen to it.
Ooh.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. I had to plug it in.
No, I mean, it's like I keep seeing everywhere. I'm like, oh my God.
Ah! Yeah.
I mean,
and of course that's another thing, I guess, which has got loads of sex, loads of eroticism, all these undertones. And again, just like trauma is something that I've noticed in horror, probably for like last 5 or 6 years, especially in horror movies. Trauma, generational trauma, loads of stuff like that is being really really explored, and I just really appreciate it. And it feels like it's got a lot more thought and weight behind it than just standard scary monsters making you jump in the dark. This
yeah, I mean,
generational trauma
Hereditary. I mean, fucking hell.
I know.
That was like, I saw Hereditary. I was like, what did I just watch?
Yeah, that was definitely an experience.
Yeah.
And for somebody like me to obviously to just hear stories from loads of different walks of life, different sexualities, different genders, different backgrounds. For me, it's just so refreshing to be able to experience that from a different standpoint, from a different viewpoint. So I really do enjoy the community as a whole and everything they're putting out. I've got a couple more questions here. I feel like we're talking about the serious stuff. Luke, who also co-hosts the podcast, I asked him if he had any questions, and he seemed to just give me some silly ones. So Luke says, V, if you were a xenomorph, what would you do with that little mouth you've got? Would you catch snowflakes, pick out only the M&M colors you like, or would you use it as a pool cue?
Oh man.
I mean, I can suggest other things that you could possibly use that
Bashing
tiny
in
little mouth for.
assholes' brains.
Bashing in assholes' brains.
I'm kidding.
I couldn't.
No,
I couldn't have. Don't kid. Double down on that, V. Don't kid. Please double down on it.
No. I'm gonna actually. I'm gonna be really serious here. I would use it to pick off when you make nachos, that cheese that's stuck on the foil to get on
that bit.
The chips that don't have any cheese that are left over.
That's annoying. Have you ever peeled it off and accidentally ate a bit of foil?
Yes, and that's why you need the little claw mouth to like get the cheese off the foil and put it on the empty chip.
I feel like I've got an idea of what I'd do with it, the little tiny mouth. I'd make a meal, and I'd also make a tiny version of the same meal.
That sounds really too complicated.
And I'd eat the normal sized meal with my normal sized mouth, and then my tiny mouth, I'd eat the tiny meal. Sounds great, right?
That sounds way too complicated.
It's because I've seen there's a tiny weird little corner of TikTok where people make tiny food, and I just love it.
Oh my God, TikTok!
It's amazing, like a tiny little burger.
Someone needs to write a TikTok horror film, because where is that?
I bet it's been done. I'll tell you what, the horror community. Are you not on TikTok? Because the horror community on TikTok's pretty good. Book Talk. I think
I'm trying, but I'm old, man. I'm tired. It's a lot of work.
I mean,
it's a lot of fucking work.
I mean, I'm not much younger than you, and I'm pretty sure I'm know what's going on with. Yeah, it can be difficult when there's trends and stuff. I'm a bit like, hang on a minute.
I need to do more. I know I need to do more. I started it and then I just forget about it. I'm like, okay, I should do some TikTok stuff.
It's tough though. There's so many platforms, but I think you're doing something right.
Yeah, I just do Twitter and Instagram.
And I think it was those platforms, I think, is when I first started to see your name out there. So it does
Yeah.
work. There's another question from Luke. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If you if you had a chest burster,
Hmm.
would you call the GP? Would you Google your symptoms, or would you just jump into the lava like Ripley did at the end of Alien 3?
I would actually try to train it like on Spaceballs, where the chest
Yeah, 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 yeah,
does
yeah.
the song and dance with the mini hat and the thing. I
Oh
mean,
my god. It does the little yeah, I know what you mean.
da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Now
I mean, that'd be
that
great, right? That's a party trick. That is a party trick. Wow. Great answer. Okay. Well, I was going to ask you what you're currently working on, but I guess we've already covered that, which is the Haunting of Alejandra. And is there anything else we need to know
that's
about
done,
the Christmas one?
I'm I, I know I'm writing. Oh no, that's so
That's
Out
all
of
done.
Aztlan will come out for Christmas, but
Mm.
pre-orders aren't up yet. Um, the Haunting of Alejandra, you can absolutely please go pre-order, pre-order, pre-order. Um, Definitely pre-order that now. I'm actually working on a crime novel,
Oh yeah,
straight crime,
you mentioned this,
straight
didn't you?
crime.
Yeah. Is this
Yeah,
wait on your own, or are you co-writing?
I'm writing one on my own, and then Gemma and I are kind of dabbling with something, but I'm writing my
Mm.
own as well.
I love it. Is there anything at all you could tell us about that, or is it all under wraps?
No, but
Nothing. Not even.
it's going to be it's pretty gruesome.
Yeah. 20,000
Yeah.
words of sex.
Actually, this is going to have no sex.
No
It's going to
sex.
be just
Right.
like er, er, er.
Oh, no time for that. No time
I'm
for the
also, but
good
no, no,
stuff.
no, and I can't say any more about the other thing I'm working on. But I will have a also straight erotic horror thing in the mix coming out
Wow.
at some point that I need to
Straight up
finish.
erotic
It'll be a
horror.
short, yeah, it'll be a short story collection of just erotic horror.
Okay. That sounds great.
And then I have a
Amazing.
ton, and then I have a ton of shit on
So
submission with my
there's so much
agent.
going on.
Well, I'm waiting. So my agent has all this
Prolific.
stuff. So I'm like waiting for publishers to say yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's good. I like it. Such an inspiration. So with
Well, thank
Vasquez,
you.
are people only going to be able to get it online? Is it going to be in bookshops as well? I'm assuming is it going to be in places like Forbidden Planet?
Yes, it will be at Forbidden Planet, and I'll have a Forbidden Planet announcement at some point soon.
Oh,
Um, yes, it'll be in bookshops. So
amazing.
definitely, yes,
I can't
everywhere.
wait. Can't wait to get my hands on it. And I urge everybody listening to check it out as well. Um, when this episode drops, we'll be we're even closer to the release date. So
Yeah, so
countdown is on.
yes, so please, uh, October 25th, UK, November 8th, US. Let's
We'll
do
put
this.
we'll put all of the relevant links in the show notes for the
Yeah.
podcast. We'll share some stuff around about the launch as well, just to make sure our listeners at least don't forget. Don't forget. Come on. So where can our listeners find more from you, V, and keep up to date with your future work?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram and Twitter at V Latina London. On TikTok, I'm like V Castro Stories or V Castro Books or something. See, I'm so on TikTok, so I'm like, I'm on there somewhere.
I'm on there
Um,
somewhere. I've got I got 5 accounts. Come on.
so I'm on TikTok, but Instagram and Twitter are my main squeezes.
Mm.
And yeah, and then The Haunting of Alejandra, that's for pre-order. Um, all of my other books, just go out and grab them. I would love for you to read Mestiza Blood, and everything else really. Goddess of
Mm.
Filth, The Queen of the Cicadas. Um, yeah, watch this space for pre-order for Out of Aztlan.
How exciting. How excited. Can't wait. Okay, so thank you everybody for listening. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron over at patreon.com/horror hangout. Thanks to Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rating or review, and head over to the Facebook group Horror Hangout Board of Advisors for more. Thank you very much for joining us, V.
Thank you for having me and coming into my living room where I'm lounging around. Literally.
live from the lounge. It could be a regular feature on the podcast, live from the lounge with V
Live from the
Castro.
lounge, just hanging out.
I would subscribe, just hanging out. And that's why we're called the Horror Hangout. Right, okay.
I love it.
Thank you very much. And we'll see you again very soon. Take care.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.